So very RWBY, everyone. I'm much more.
And I'm Sklar.
That sounded like you just really didn't want to do this.
That's where it is hot as fuck in here.
Fair enough. We'll try to make this one a bit quicker. And today we are doing our second episode of our discussion podcast. This one is on RWBY Volume 2.
Mm-hmm.
Surprise, surprise. So, first thing to talk about, I suppose, is the animation drastically improved from Volume 1.
Yeah, I'd say just about everything is improved from Volume 1.
Yeah.
That's very noticeable in this.
Especially the fact that now there are background characters.
Oh, yeah.
And not just random black shadows everywhere.
Yeah, I do like, they fixed up a lot of, minor touches that were, minor annoyances in the first season. Like, what you just mentioned. That was the most noticeable one, easily.
And then, it is really noticeable, especially rewatching it for probably the 10th time for me, that the animation is decent to good in the normal scenes and all, but then it gets a giant bump up whenever they're doing the action scenes. Like the first, I guess the second real action scene where they're in the town and fighting the robot. The second that it starts to get to the actual fight section of that, you can tell it's drastically improved compared to where it was where they're just walking around and talking.
Yeah. And I do like that they do show off the action, how much is improved, almost right away with the first fight, which is a food fight. It's just pretty entertaining in its own right.
Yeah, it's a literal fight involving food.
What else would you think a food fight was?
Well, I mean, normally when people say food fight, it's like throwing food and all. This is literally beating each other with food. Like breadsticks and turkeys. And
I guess. Fair enough, yeah. Apparently I'd gotten to the point where I didn't think an actual food fight was normal at this point.
Yeah. That's what you get for watching so much anime, Sklar.
Well, see, it's not even another anime, so that's the only food fight I've seen in, forever. It really is. It's not... I don't watch too many things where that just happens.
I think you do.
Can you name something else? Because we watch a lot of the same stuff. You're just sort of being quiet here.
I can't name anything else.
Yeah, okay, so shut up.
I'm sure it's happened at some point or another.
Yeah, sure.
But, yeah, and the action sequences, as always with RWBY, are the main reason to watch the show. Volume 2 really steps it up and improves upon those even. They're just really fast-paced, but like I said in the Volume 1 discussion, it's never to the point where you can't tell what's going on. You can see every movement clearly.
Yeah. I don't want to go and, repeat ourselves, but basically, they just improved.
Yeah. And then, I really don't know where to go from there.
Well, this season, volume, whatever. Volume. Anyways. It's, feels like it has a lot of setup for what's going to happen later on. So while the action is improved, there is quite a bit of talking that goes on.
Yeah, neither one of us really realized there was as much talking moments in this volume until we went to rewatch it before this. It's definitely a lot of setup for the future. It's pretty much, first volume was introduction, second volume is setup, and then third volume is after. And we won't talk about the third volume in this one. Because Sklar hasn't seen it yet, because he's a bitch. Also
because it's this is a Volume 2 podcast, so it wouldn't make sense to talk about Volume 3.
Yeah, but the main reason is because you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, well, whatever. But, one thing that they mention in this is, that there are, different types of Grims. There's, kinds that are, older. I think they called them Goliaths or something.
I don't remember for sure what the name is.
It was the elephant ones.
Yeah.
Anyways, this was something I wanted to mention, the first one of these that we did. But I want to see, more types of Grims. It just feels like they don't really expand on Grims all that much, even though they're, the main, enemy type. It just seems like we don't really know much about them.
Yeah.
We just know that they're sort of big, nasty, mean things.
Yeah, I do hope they expand on, like, the mythology behind the Grimm themselves as we go on, instead of just them being creatures in the world. Like, because we don't really know anything about them except for they feed off of emotions, and negative emotions are drawn to them, and we don't even know if they actually feed off them. We just know they're drawn to them. Yeah. And that there are certain Grimm that have lived for long enough to gain some type of intelligence.
Yeah. And so you would think, just knowing that there's probably, like, at least one Grimm that's, like, incredibly smart. Might even be able to, like, speak.
Yeah, there's probably somewhere out in the corners of the world or something, Grimm that are intelligent enough to have a society rather than just be monsters.
Yeah. So something like that I would be interested in seeing. So I do hope that, like, becomes something they explore more into in the later seasons.
Yeah, further on. Don't know that it would necessarily happen anytime soon, but I would certainly like to see something like that as the series progresses down the years.
Yeah.
And I think they've said that before Monty died, he actually had written out enough plot points for, I think, like the first 7 seasons total, if I'm not mistaken, from what I heard. I could be talking out of my ass here, but I'm fairly certain I remember hearing that at some point.
I think fairly certain.
Yeah. They did go. I do think that Blake was a bit just kind of this season. Like, I get why she was acting the way she was, but it seemed like she was getting a bit more overreacting sort of thing compared to the others.
Sorta. I do think it sort of, like, was something that needed to happen to just, like, I think that actually got her over a lot of it. Or at least, like, made it where she's not all about her, the White Fang stuff.
Yeah.
So there's that, but it was sort of, like, annoying to just see it, like, go back to that almost immediately once the show starts rolling again.
Yeah, and then just they started out with, okay, we're going to do some stuff and we're going to work to try to solve this on our own, and everyone was all for it, and that seemed to be in a good mood. And then they actually uncovered some stuff about the White Fang and what's going on with Roman. And then Blake's immediately depressed and all that again, super obsessed in, like, the next scene after they get done with that.
Yeah, that feels like that happens just a bit too quickly, just sort of out of nowhere.
Like, there wasn't any, okay, we've investigated what little we can, and now we're stumped, we can't do anything else. There wasn't any, like, time dedicated to showing why she would be from, they found information about the White Fang and all, to being kind of depressed and obsessed and all that again.
Yeah.
Like, that could have used a little bit more time to flesh it out.
Yeah. Though, the season is, like, quite a bit longer than the other one. So, like, overall, there's more time to flesh out just about everything.
Yeah, and that's...
But there are still a lot of characters and a lot of plot points that show up.
Yeah, it's a building season, just trying to hint at things to come more than anything else.
Yeah. They do introduce, like, quite a few new characters, some of which get a fair amount of screen time, some of which just sort of show up for, like, 1 or 2 scenes.
Yeah. And then, like, Team Coffee, which is Velvet's team, they didn't get much screen time, but what screen time they did get was awesome, because they show
a
up.
Better description of who Team Coffee and Velvet is, because, like, no one's gonna know.
Velvet is the rabbit girl.
Okay, there you go.
People, if they're
it's
watching
her team.
if they're watching this, they probably know who Velvet is. But their fight scene and all at the end of the volume was spectacular.
Yeah.
And a very good introduction of those characters.
Yeah.
Especially since
I like characters that have, like, a bit of a style when they fight, like the leader girl with
Coco.
Coco, with the suitcase thing, turns into a Gatling gun.
Yeah.
Like, I liked her style.
She definitely had a certain feel to the way she fought.
Oh, and easily for me, like the best part of this season, it would be Dr. Oobleck, the caffeine teacher guy.
Yeah.
That's always with the thermos and
He
such.
did not earn a PhD for fun, you know.
Shut up.
Yeah, definitely.
I called him Doctor.
I know. But that's probably his best quote, in my opinion. Dr. Oobleck, having him be a major part of the volume when they're exploring the ruined city looking for the White Fang hideout, that was really good. And it was enjoyable to see a teacher actually get some screen time instead of just being a one-off scene sort of thing.
Yeah. And it just allowed for a lot of comedy, like back-to-back, along with some serious stuff and some pretty good action scenes then, too.
Yeah. And also, it was great they introduced Zwei, which is Ruby's dog.
Oh, yeah. And they have a pretty good tag team attack.
Yes, Dr. Oobleck and Zwei, with turning Zwei into a flaming cannonball. Didn't know dogs could do that, but apparently they can. Zwei is just like the great random character type thing, because he shows up inside of a freaking mailed tube that's like half his size. Not even.
Yeah, I do like how when they use Y as a weapon, that just sort of happens. They didn't discuss this. They didn't explain how this happened. It just
it's just like
goes off.
Okay, this happens. And then Zwei shows up right at the end of the final fight scene and like jumps off the back of a robot and kicks a Beowulf in the face.
Yeah, that is pretty. I did like a lot of stuff in the final fight scene. It sort of like brings together just about every character you'd seen up to that point. Even the bad guys get a few hits off.
Yeah. I will say I am just a little disappointed that we did get a very brief introduction to Sun and Neptune's fighting style during the season, during the robot scene earlier on. But they only got like one or two hits in, and we don't really get to see them do anything in Volume 2. Like, they even show up for the final fight scene and don't get any screen time actually fighting. They just show up with their badges and then...
Well, I guess that's sort of part of the joke.
Yeah, but...
Because once they show up, then the freaking robot army shows up and takes care of all that.
Yeah. But at the same time, I would have liked to see just at least another slight scene of them fighting in this volume.
Yeah. Though I don't particularly care for the whole robot army being a better security force taking place.
Well, it's not really that they're better, it's just that they have more numbers. Because if you notice, during the final battle, they were actually getting destroyed by Grimm, too. Like, even just Borbusks, which are the Boar Grimm, destroyed a couple of them. So it's not as much that they're better fighters, it's just that they have sheer numbers and they're expendable. Which is the entire purpose of the army, from what I could tell.
Yeah, which it is also weird that they introduced that big robot mech thing.
The Paladins.
Yeah, they introduced that as like part of the security force or whatever. But like the only time you actually see it in the show is when it's being used by the bad guys.
Yeah, well, and it's also, I guess the excuse there is that they hijacked the train that had them on it and stole all of the prototypes that were going to be sent out.
Yeah, they said they got them. They said they got some of them before they like hit the shells, I believe is what they actually said. But these are the guys that literally make them and own them. They should freaking have a few.
Yeah, you would think.
They also have airships. Like, I don't think they need to rely on the train to get them there.
Yeah. And then there's also, as a matter of fact, something that's always bothered me about Volume 2 is that these are the new top-of-the-line super weapons for fighting the Grimm type thing, and then they're so easily defeated. Like, even when Roman was piloting one and fighting Team RWBY, I get that Roman probably wasn't very familiar with the controls and all, but he seemed to be controlling it fairly well. But the mech couldn't hardly stand up to just 4 huntresses in training. And also, I know Team RWBY is supposed to be, like, extremely advanced for where they're at in the school year and all, but you would think the new super weapon from Atlas would have more punch than being able to be destroyed that quickly. And then later on, when just regular members of the White Fang are controlling the Paladins, they're just getting destroyed like they're not even basic Grim even. Like, basic Grim tend to last longer.
Yeah. Honestly, on the first fight with the robot, I thought that was alright. Like, it at least got its whole, like, fight dedicated to it, even if it did get beat and get smashed into bits. But the later ones really have no excuse, because they have been shown to be at least a little bit durable.
Yeah,
and then they just get torn apart.
Yeah. And like I said, I can get why maybe like Roman wasn't super experienced with it, is why he wasn't able to put up even more of a fight against Team RWBY. But I still feel like it was starting to get destroyed fairly easily for something that's supposed to be super power armor that's going to let regular people in the military fight the Grim.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that was kind of the entire pitch that General Ironwood had about them, was sometimes things need a more human touch, and we made this power armor to protect our soldiers who want to fight against the Grim and all. And then you're showing that first year students at a full Huntress Academy can easily defeat this thing.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like they're not powerful enough for what their role is supposed to be within the universe of RWBY.
Though I guess that might be sort of the point. I don't know, I haven't seen what's coming up next with those guys, so...
Well, I mean, that Legion military, like I said, they are more about numbers over raw skill and all that, which I can understand with their average troops and all, but I just feel like if they're going to be producing some sort of new super weapon type mech, it should be something that could realistically pose a greater threat against the Grim than just a squad of first year students.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how I feel about it. I feel like the Paladins were a bit underwhelming.
Yeah. There's actually not a lot else I can think of that I could say that I would like really like about this particular season, because there's just so much like introduction to things.
Yeah, there's not really a whole lot that's actually going on. It's more of build up.
Yeah.
We did get the Johnny Andres.
Yeah, that was sort of funny.
Yeah. I honestly can't really think of anything else that's not just like build up type stuff.
Yeah, that's my problem here. But yeah, the main thing I enjoyed was just the Dr. Ooblet caffeine character. He was really funny and had some pretty good fight scenes.
Yeah. Again, very good fight scenes this season.
Yeah, like all the comedy I could think of just basically comes from that. And then all the fight scenes I feel are like they're noticeable. It's just like they're very separated between a lot of introduction, exposition, and just characters talking like away from the main group.
Yeah, it's a build-up season. It's meant
Which it is nice to see colorful characters, so there is that. And like I do want to see like more of a lot of the people I saw, like the Umbrella Girl and
Neo.
Okay. And the other girl that saved Yang. I don't know anything about her. Okay.
That's Yang's mother.
Thanks for that spoiler. And that was sort of obvious.
Yeah, I mean, if you couldn't figure that out, then you're not paying attention. I'm trying to think if there's any other like major plot points that weren't just building up to the next volume.
Yeah.
Because it was a very exposition heavy volume, but the fight scenes, again, RWBY is, particularly the first couple seasons, it's mostly just about the fight scenes. So there was a lot of exposition, but the fight scenes still were spread out enough and done well enough that you kind of forget about the exposition when you're watching those.
Yeah. Let's see. I'd say I liked all the improvements that were made throughout it. Even think the acting was a little bit better too, and so I do like I like the production increase, but as for like just rewatching something, I would probably honestly rewatch the first season more often, just because it feels a bit more contained in itself.
Yeah, Volume 1...
Volume 2 feels like you need to watch what happens after this.
Yeah, Volume 2... Don't get us wrong, it's a very good season. Definitely worth watching. It's just not as much one of those that you want to rewatch a whole lot once you get done with the exposition.
Yeah.
Like, I think that if I was going to sit down and watch like a full RWBY marathon, I'd rewatch it. But if I was just wanting to...
If you just wanted to watch RWBY.
Yeah, if I just wanted to watch RWBY, then I probably wouldn't. I'd probably skip over Volume 2.
Yeah, or at the very least, just skip a lot of the...
Yeah, just skip to the fight scenes.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, it's a very good season. Very, very well done. It's just a lot of exposition that is just built up. So...
Yeah. Alright, well, is that everything we can think of?
Yeah, I think that's where we're going to end this one.
Good, because I am freaking hot.
Yeah, sorry if this one's a bit short, but it's like 200 degrees in the room we record in, and there's no air conditioning in this room.
Yeah, when we started doing our recording this much cooler temperature, we did not expect it to get so hot in here.
We didn't plan for this. So, we're going to end it here. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you next time for Volume 3.
Later.